Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
This bedroom didn't just take a long time to renovate. At one point, we basically lost it. For months, this wasn't really a room at all. There was no radiator, half the floorboards were up, and boxes of stuff were everywhere. So it slowly turned into our storage room, but more accurately, one of 3 storage rooms we somehow ended up with. Boxes, tools, things we didn't know where else to put. So for a long time, the only thing we really could do here was close the door and pretend it didn't exist. Oh, and then we even removed the door as well. And nothing could move forward until some very unglamorous jobs were finished. Once the electricians were done, we had to undo the damage. Floorboards went back down. Staples from the old carpet underlay came out. And we completely rearranged the wardrobe setup. Then came the vacuuming, lots of it, again and again. None of this makes a room look better, but without it, absolutely nothing else happens. Months earlier, back in summer, the radiator came off completely. Not because we wouldn't need the heat later, but because it was badly painted, badly finished, and we wanted to do it properly. So this wasn't a random decision, it was a plan, a slow one, but still a plan. Years of thick, uneven paint was stripped back, and the radiator was repainted from scratch. It was slow, messy work, the kind that doesn't look impressive on camera, but it was absolutely worth it. Before putting the radiator back, it was a perfect moment to paint the wall behind it. As all DIYers know, painting around the radiator is one thing, painting behind it properly is a whole different story. We also thought it would be better to install the skirting board behind it, as it would be easier than doing it later. Because this is an external wall, we also added insulation behind the radiator. It's one of those jobs you almost only get one chance to do. Once the radiator is back on, that opportunity is almost gone. When everything went back together, we added a smart radiator valve. Nothing exciting to look at, but we now have total control of the temperature in this room, something that turned out to matter far more than we realised at the time. This was the moment the room stopped being a constant problem. It felt warmer and drier and more predictable. At the time, we just knew it felt better. Looking back, we really wish we'd understood just how important temperature control is before touching plaster. With the room finally usable again, we could deal with the ceiling. That turned into a whole video on its own, and a lesson we definitely won't repeat.
Oh gosh.
Once we moved on to the walls, there was no gentle discovery phase. Everything was obvious. One wall had a wallpaper on that we removed and had to prepare for painting. The rest of the wall had thick paint with heavy brush lines you could see from across the room. Old repairs everywhere and timberwork that had been painted so badly it needed stripping just to stand a chance. This wasn't a case of look closely and you'll see it. It was obviously bad. All of it. The real problem was gaps, cracks and hollow plaster around electrical chases, in corners and anywhere previous repairs had failed. Before sanding or painting could even be considered, everything had to be filled properly. And that's where we had a decision to make. We didn't want to rush, even though we did have a tight deadline, but we also didn't want to overcomplicate things. So instead of guessing, we tried 2 different filling methods. Both work, but they're very different experiences. The first approach was bonding coat followed by multi-finish. It's the traditional method and it gives a beautiful result, but the process is heavy. Bonding coat, multi-finish, wet trowel, multi-finish again, trying to blend everything, then wet trowel again. Not once, but at least 4 passes, and every single time you're mixing the fresh pasta, cleaning the tools, waiting between coats and wet passes, or rushing before things dry, depending on how much you're trying to get done, and you throw away a lot of excess mixed pasta. For larger areas, it makes sense. For small patches and corners, it becomes stressful and exhausting very quickly. The finish, though, was excellent, flat, sharp, and proper. If perfection is the goal, this works. The second approach was a bonding coat with easy fill, and for most DIY situations, this makes far more sense. The process starts the same with bonding, but slightly under the wall level. Then you apply 1 or 2 coats of easy fill proud of the surface, leaving material to sand back. It's faster, more forgiving, and easier to control. You still get a really good finish, just with more sanding afterwards and far fewer moments of regret. Both methods work, but if you're dealing with lots of small repairs, easy fill wins, less stress, less cleaning, and yes, more sanding, but fewer breakdowns. One thing worth noting though, easy fill is significantly more expensive. At the same time, all the timberwork had to be fixed. Architraves, window trims, skirting, none of it was a quick sand and paint. Old paint had to be stripped both chemically, because yes, it contained lead, and by sanding. You're only seeing a few seconds of it here, but trust us, this took ages. Then all gaps had to be filled before priming, painting and caulking. And all of it had to happen in the right order, or you'd just undo your own work. It took less time than the timberwork in the living room, but it still felt like ages. However, it completely changed how the room feels. Once everything was filled, it was time to sand. Again. This is the part nobody enjoys. And this was also the moment a new toy entered the room, the Evolution Wall Sander. That tool was big and promising compared to any other sanding machines we had been using before. Once we got the hang of it, it was absolutely a different experience, far faster than any other solution before. Okay, it's not a cheap tool to get just for the odd job, but we still have so much to do in this house, so the cost made sense, and we might sell it on later, and we don't want to continue testing our mental health with sanding.
I am impressed. It's doing the job quite fast. Wow, let's do the whole room.
So, with a bit of patience, decent tools and a very good dust extractor, we worked through the grits, checked the finish against the light and kept going until the walls finally behaved. This is also where humour becomes essential, especially when your arm muscles have had enough. After sanding, everything gets cleaned again because dust is the enemy.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Wipe, wipe, wipe your dust well. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Then comes the mist coats, not just to cover, but to check the work properly. And finally, colour. This is when the room starts to feel like yours, and all that preparation finally makes sense.
I'm propping myself up because it's very late at night, and we are going to give wallpapering a second go. We have done it before downstairs with our super murals, and we've tried to remember everything that we used before, and all our tips and tricks we gave you guys, we've got to remember them for ourselves. So here we go, with a second bit of wallpapering, but maybe not just wallpapering. Stick with us to find out what this wall is gonna be. Wispy mauve leaves. Wispy mauve, darling, wispy mauve.
Shall I start the gluing?
Yeah, we're ready to start the gluing.
Right.
See you on the other side. Let's see if we're still talking by the time we get to that. Generally, we don't get through a day without, yeah.
One wall was always meant to be a feature, and the wallpaper completely changed how the room feels.
It's 3:30. Well, do you guys like it?
But wait, it's not finished.
Underneath it, you'll notice a gap. The decision for that was, of course, deliberate, because later we built a wooden wall panel there. Now, you might not believe us without seeing it, but as amazing as Yoris is, he does make mistakes, and we lost most of the footage. And we are talking about hours of footage, because Yoris pressed the wrong buttons and realised far too late. And yes, it could have been a video on its own, but what can you do? So these are the only surviving pictures from that build. What we wanted was real depth, not MDF trims stuck on a wall. Price-wise, it was about the same, and MDF would still need filling and sanding and painting to look right. But here we wanted to inspire our fellow DIYers to up their level and not reach for that quite typical MDF. This way we got something warm, solid and with real texture and a much better result. What do you guys think? After that, things moved quickly. Skirting went on, like we've shown in previous videos. Footage is lost again. Underlay went down, and suddenly there was a deadline. Scrumpy was coming home. At that point, the rush wasn't about having the room finished. It was about safety for the third member of this family. Clean floors, no exposed edges, and a space that was safe for 4 little paws. We also laid down the carpet, which, you guessed it, you just lost the footage. And this we really wanted to share with you. We always want to encourage our fellow DIYers to give everything a go, including laying your own carpets. Why not? It's also fun and super satisfying. I also made the curtains from scratch. We installed the curtain poles, and finally, everything was done. This room didn't come together quickly. It did take patience, a lot of waiting, and learning when not to push. The ceiling taught us patience, the walls taught us restraint, and the timberwork taught us respect. And this room reminded us that progress doesn't always look impressive, especially when you're living in it, but it still counts. Also, if you're wondering why we'd put ourselves through this again, the next video is the guest bedroom, because clearly we learn lessons and then immediately test them. And remember that if we can do it, you can do it.